Lyra had never set foot on a world like this. From her spaceship, Earth looked small, fragile, and alive, with swirling oceans and green patches like painted jewels. Her species had observed countless planets, cataloging life, studying behaviors, and noting cultures, but humans were different. Humans moved with an energy that was chaotic, unpredictable, and yet strangely beautiful. Lyra's curiosity had grown for months as she hovered above the cities, studying humans from afar. Today, she could no longer resist. She had to see them up close. The spaceship descended slowly, settling in a quiet part of the city. Here, nature and technology met gently. Soft grass pressed against shiny glass, trees swayed next to tall buildings, and the sun bounced off puddles left by a recent rain. Humans walked along the streets, talking loudly, laughing, gesturing wildly. Lyra watched them, fascinated. Every movement seemed alive, full of emotion, full of meaning she was only beginning to grasp. Her own species rarely expressed feelings in such visible ways, so this world felt overwhelmingly vivid. Lyra stepped out of her spaceship. The air was heavier than she expected, warm, humid, smelling of wet earth and baked stone. She inhaled carefully, her body reacting in ways she did not fully understand. The tiniest excitement made her skin tingle and warm, and she could feel her heart beating faster. Her pale alien skin, usually cool and neutral, began to flush, spreading warmth across her cheeks and the tips of her ears. It startled her. She had read about blushing in human psychology books she had secretly downloaded from human databases, but feeling it herself was different. It made her feel vulnerable, exposed, and alive. As she wandered along the streets, trying to blend in, she saw him, Eli, a young man with messy brown hair, warm brown eyes, and a careless smile that seemed to shine in the dull afternoon. He was different from the others, somehow calmer, yet radiating the same energy that fascinated her. He laughed at something on his phone, completely unaware of her staring. But when their eyes met, her body betrayed her. Her blush deepened instantly, spreading down her neck and arms. Her chest felt tight, and a strange fluttering rose in her stomach. It was not fear. It was not panic. It was something entirely new. Lyra tried to step back, telling herself she had no reason to approach him. Humans could be dangerous, unpredictable, and she had been trained to avoid contact. But curiosity, stronger than caution, kept her rooted. She watched him carefully, noting the subtle ways he moved, how his fingers drummed lightly on the table at the cafe he walked past, how his eyes lingered on passing people, how his smile softened when he noticed a small child stumble but recover. He was human, yes, but he carried a warmth that she had never experienced before. Her body, however, would not cooperate. The blush refused to fade. Her thoughts scattered like autumn leaves in the wind, jumbled and chaotic. She remembered all. The research she had done, all the calculations about human interactions, and yet none of it prepared her for this. A single glance from him made her feel exposed, fragile, and intensely aware of her own being. She wondered, not for the first time, why humans could make someone feel so seen, so recognized. With nothing more than a smile or a look, Lyra whispered. Softly, barely audible, a question she did not expect herself to ask. Why do I feel this? Her words trembled, carried away by the wind. For a moment, she considered retreating to the safety of her ship, to the cold metal and calculated certainty of her own world. But something inside her resisted. Something bold, something new, urged her forward. She could not look away from him. She could not stop blushing. She did not want to. Somewhere deep inside, Lyra realized that her life was about to change. The world she had observed from a distance, so orderly, so controlled, was suddenly full of possibilities she had never imagined. And at the center of it, standing unknowingly under the sun, was Eli, and she was already impossibly drawn to him. Lyra's steps faltered as she moved closer to the young man. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of weight, but because her heart, or the strange alien equivalent, was thundering wildly in her chest. Humans had strange rituals, subtle ways to communicate, and she had studied them for months, but nothing prepared her for the feeling of being seen in the way Eli's eyes met hers. His gaze held curiosity, warmth, and a quiet amusement. "Hi," he said, his voice calm, friendly, and slightly hesitant. You're not from around here, are you?" Lyra froze. She wanted to step back, to retreat to the safety of the shadows. But the sound of his voice, gentle and inviting, rooted her in place. Her lips trembled, and when she tried to respond, her words faltered. Her cheeks flamed hotter, a vivid red that no human could miss. She whispered softly, almost as if confessing a secret to herself. No, Eli tilted his head, studying her carefully. "You're different," he said, curiosity clear in his tone, "but I like it. You're beautiful." The word hit her like a star exploding. Her body surged with warmth, spreading from her face down to her hands and arms. She felt exposed, almost naked under his gaze, yet strangely safe. Her species had always prized control over emotion. Loss of composure was considered a weakness. Yet now, standing before a human, Lyra realized that losing control could feel exhilarating. She forced herself to take a step forward, then another. The human world smelled stronger up close. Coffee brewing from a nearby cafe, fresh rain on stone, a hint of flowers from a small garden nearby. Every scent, every sound amplified her senses, making her blush deepen uncontrollably. Eli noticed. "You're warm," he said softly, as if it were the simplest observation in the world. "Not just your body, I mean, you feel alive." Lyra blinked, caught off guard. Alive. That word resonated in her chest, echoing like a pulse she had never felt before. I feel a lot," she admitted, voice shaking. She had never spoken of her feelings to anyone, humans or her own kind. Vulnerability was frightening, yet something about Eli made it seem safe. Something about him made it right. He smiled, small and reassuring, and for a moment, the chaotic world around them seemed to quiet. The human chatter, the cars rushing, the distant hum of city life, all of it faded into a background hum. All that existed was the soft warmth of his gaze and the strange, fluttering sensation in her chest. Lyra wanted to explain herself, to say she was alien, that her species could not normally feel such raw emotion. But words failed her. Every sentence she formed in her mind crumbled when she tried to speak. Instead, she simply stepped closer, and the faintest flicker of a smile crossed her lips. Eli extended his hand, hesitant but welcoming. "I'm Eli," he said. "It's nice to meet you, really." Lyra stared at the hand. Such a simple gesture, human, ordinary, and yet it made her body respond in ways she couldn't control. Her skin flared again, hotter than before, and her pulse raced. She wanted to take it, but hesitation gripped her. Her instincts whispered caution, while her curiosity screamed to reach out. Finally she did. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand in his. The warmth of contact spread through her, sending shivers down her spine. She realized then that this was more than physical warmth. It was the warmth of connection, of being acknowledged not as an observer, not as a creature of another world, but as someone who mattered. Eli's eyes softened as he noticed her reaction. "It's okay," he said gently. "You don't have to understand everything now. You just feel. That's enough." Lyra felt a mixture of relief, fear, and wonder. Her blush deepened once more, but now it was not embarrassment, it was emotion in its purest, most unrestrained form. She wanted to stay in this moment, to let it last forever. For the first time in her life, Lyra realized that meeting someone, truly meeting someone, could change everything. And standing there, holding his hand, she knew she had already crossed a line from which there was no return. She was not the same alien who had walked these streets moments ago. She had felt something human. She had felt connection. Eli released her hand gently, his fingers brushing hers for a moment longer than necessary. The small gesture sent another wave of warmth through Lyra's body. She felt her cheeks burning, her pulse racing, yet she could not pull away. Something inside her, a strange mixture of curiosity and longing, urged her forward. Every instinct told her to retreat, to flee to the safety of her spaceship, but every heartbeat screamed to stay. You seem cold," Eli said softly, glancing at her pale skin and the slight shiver in her shoulders. "You want to come inside? I can make some tea. Or something warm." Lyra froze. Inside, a human home? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. Her mind raced. Human homes were intimate, personal spaces. Crossing that threshold meant vulnerability. Yet as she looked at him, she sensed no malice, no danger. Just kindness. His presence felt like sunlight cutting through a stormy sky. She nodded, barely trusting her voice. I would like that," she whispered. Her words trembled, fragile as a crystal. The blush on her cheeks deepened, spreading down her neck and arms. Every movement, every heartbeat felt magnified. Her senses were alive in ways she had never experienced. The soft hum of distant traffic, the faint scent of flowers nearby, even the warmth of the sun on her skin, all of it became unbearable and beautiful at the same time. Eli smiled, a small, encouraging curve of his lips. "Great, come on then." He turned toward a narrow path leading to a small building. glance at him, a battle with the overwhelming heat rising in her body. She felt fragile, exposed, yet exhilarated, as if every nerve in her body had awakened from a long, dull slumber. The door opened with a soft creak, and Lyra paused at the threshold. Inside, the air smelled warm and earthy, like bread baking in an oven. Light from the windows spilled across soft furniture and neatly stacked books. The walls were adorned with picture scenes of mountains, forests, and human faces smiling at each other. It was simple, yet vibrant, alive in a way she had not expected. "This is beautiful," Lyra murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes roamed the room, drinking in every detail. Each object, each shadow, each ray of sunlight on the floor made her heart race. She felt like a child seeing the world for the first time, overwhelmed and fascinated all at once. Eli chuckled softly. "I'm glad you like it," he said, motioning toward a small chair near a low table. "Sit, I'll make the tea. You look like you could use something warm." Lyra obeyed, though her movements were clumsy. Every step, every shift in position made her blush flare hotter. She felt exposed, yet strangely safe. Her mind raced, a swirl of emotions she could not name. Curiosity, nervousness, desire, fear, excitement, all mixed together, until she felt as if she might float away. Eli busied himself in the small kitchen, moving with casual grace. Lyra watched him, noting the way he handled objects with care, how his brow furrowed slightly as he concentrated, and how his presence filled the room with quiet warmth. The sight made her heart flutter violently, and she pressed her hands to her cheeks to hide the heat she could no longer control. "You don't have to say anything," Eli said, glancing back at her with a soft smile. "Just relax. Be here, that's enough." Lyra's lips parted, but no words came out. Her blush deepened even further, and her breath hitched. She realized she had not felt this alive in her entire life. Each second stretched, heavy and sweet, as if time itself had slowed to let her feel every heartbeat, every tremor, every heat of emotion coursing through her for the first time. Lyra understood something profound about humans. They could be fragile, unpredictable, and imperfect, yet in that imperfection, there was beauty. And for the first time, she felt the stirring of something she had only observed from afar, the possibility of belonging, of connection, of intimacy. Sitting there in the quiet warmth of Eli's home, surrounded by simple human comforts, she realized that stepping inside had been more than a physical act. It was a surrender, a choice to feel, to exist fully, to allow herself to be vulnerable. And she knew, deep in her chest, that this moment would change her forever. The small kettle whistled, and Eli carefully poured the steaming water into 2 cups. The aroma of the tea filled the room, mingling with the faint scent of books and sunlight. Lyra watched him, mesmerized by the simple human movements. Her heart raced, and her blush flared hotter with every gesture he made. She could not stop staring. She wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but words tangled themselves in her throat. Eli noticed her hesitation. He tilted his head, a soft, questioning look in his eyes. "You can tell me anything," he said gently. "Really?" Lyra's lips trembled. Her hands shook slightly as she reached for the cup. The warmth of the ceramic seeped into her palms, but it did little to calm the storm of emotions inside her. She wanted to confess, to speak the truth she had kept buried, even from herself. Her face burned, but it was no longer embarrassment. It was the fire of something more, something raw and human. I feel," she began, then paused. Words faltered. Her mind raced, but the language she had learned from observation failed her. Her voice wavered like a fragile glass, and she could feel her heartbeat hammering in her ears. I don't know why I feel like this," she admitted softly, almost whispering. Her eyes, wide and unguarded, met his, and she saw no judgment, only patience. Eli smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "It's okay," he said. "Feelings are confusing. They can scare us. But they're not wrong. And they're not dangerous, not if you have someone you can trust." Lyra's body reacted immediately. Her blush spread from her cheeks to her neck and shoulders, almost as if her skin had its own language, revealing what her words could not. She wanted to hide, to flee, but a small stubborn part of her wanted to stay, wanted to share this vulnerability, this overwhelming surge of emotion. I've never felt this," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know what it is, but it's too much. I can't. Stop it." Eli leaned closer, careful not to crowd her, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. That's the thing about feelings, he said softly. Sometimes they're overwhelming. Sometimes they make us uncomfortable. But that's how we know we're alive. You're alive, Lyra, more alive than you've ever been. Lyra's breath hitched. The words, simple as they were, struck a chord deep inside her. She had spent her life observing humans from afar, cataloging their emotions, analyzing their behaviors. But this was no observation. This was raw, unfiltered experience. Her blush deepened, her skin glowing with warmth she could not control. Her body, her mind, even her alien instincts were all at war, and yet she felt an unfamiliar kind of peace, a trembling calm beneath the chaos. She tried again, but the sentence broke apart. Her hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles whitening. The vulnerability was intoxicating. Her eyes searched his for guidance, for reassurance, for permission to feel fully. And when she found it there, in his unwavering gaze, something shifted inside her. You don't have to understand it all at once, Eli said, his voice calm, comforting, steady. Just let yourself feel. That's enough. Lyra exhaled slowly, a shiver running down her spine. She realized she had been holding herself back, fearing her own reactions, fearing the fire inside her body. But now with him, she could let go. She could let herself be human, or maybe something more than human. Her blush burned brighter, but it was no longer shame. It was a declaration, a confession without words. I am here. I feel. I exist. For the first time, Lyra felt the terrifying and beautiful power of emotion. Every nerve in her body vibrated with it, yet she was not afraid. She realized she had crossed a threshold, one she could never step back from. And as she looked at Ela, she understood the truth. This moment, this connection, was changing her, transforming her in ways she had never imagined possible, and for the first time, she smiled, not just a small, polite smile, but a genuine, radiant smile that came from the depths of her heart. Lyra sat quietly, letting the warmth of the tea seep into her hands, but her mind was racing faster than ever. The conversation with Eli had unlocked something deep inside her, something raw, fragile, and alive, and she could feel her blush pulsing hotter by the second. Every nerve in her body seemed on fire, every heartbeat loud in her chest. She was overwhelmed, and the human sensation of vulnerability both thrilled and terrified her. Suddenly, a sharp noise from the street outside startled her. A car horn blared loudly, followed by a screech of tires and the distant shouts of humans. Lyra flinched violently, her body rigid with instinctive fear. The sudden interruption made her realize just how fragile her position was. Even here, inside this warm, quiet room, the world outside could intrude at any moment. Her heart pounded and her blush intensified, a fiery red she could not control. Eli noticed immediately. "It's okay," he said gently, his voice steadying her. "You're safe here. I promise." Lyra nodded, but her mind would not calm. Every instinct in her body told her to protect herself, to control her environment, to create a barrier against the chaos she could not fully understand. She wanted to feel safe. She wanted to feel in control. And then, almost without thinking, she moved toward the door. Her fingers hovered over the small lock, and with a soft click, she engaged it. The sound of the lock closing reverberated in the room like a tiny declaration. Lyra exhaled, feeling a small wave of relief. Her body relaxed slightly, the blush on her cheek softening, though it lingered as a warm glow. She looked back at Eli, unsure how he would react. Eli's eyes widened slightly, but then softened. He nodded slowly. "I understand," he said, almost whispering. There was no judgment in his tone, only recognition. "You needed that. And that's okay." Lyra sank back into her chair, hands pressed to her face as her blush flared again. Her tail, a subtle alien appendage no human would notice, flicked nervously behind her. She felt both exposed and safe, a contradiction she did not know how to reconcile. Her species had taught her that showing vulnerability was weakness. But now she realized, vulnerability could be strength, especially when paired with trust. Eli moved closer, sitting across from her at the low table. "You don't have to hide anymore," he said softly. "Feeling too much doesn't make you weak. It makes you alive. And that's beautiful." Lyra's breath hitched. She had never heard words so simple, yet so powerful. Her blush deepened again, spreading across her neck, shoulders, and arms. She wanted to look away, to escape, but she couldn't. There was something magnetic about the warmth in his eyes, something that made every nerve in her body sing. She realized she wanted him to see everything, her confusion, her fear, her exhilaration, and yet she had never felt so exposed. A silence fell over the room, thick and full of unspoken emotion. Lyra sipped her tea slowly, trying to steady herself, but her blue tucked behind a cluster of trees. Lyra followed, her steps hesitant at first, then more confident. Every step was a challenge, every edge refused to fade. Each sip felt like an eternity, each heartbeat like a drum echoing in her chest. She had never felt human or alive in this way before. Her emotions were no longer abstract concepts she studied from orbit. They were real, uncontrollable, and breathtakingly beautiful. She began, voice barely above a whisper. I'm not afraid of being here. Not with you, but I needed to know I was safe. I needed to control something. Her words trembled, and her blush flared even hotter. Eli smiled softly, reaching out to rest a hand gently on the table near hers, careful not to touch. I understand, he said. And you're safe, here, with me. No one can harm you in this moment. Lyra exhaled slowly, letting the tension in her body ease just a little. She realized that locking the door was not an act of fear, it was an act of courage. It was a choice to protect herself while also allowing someone else in. Her blush burned, yes, but it was no longer a mark of weakness. It was proof that she was alive, that she felt, and that she had taken the first step into a world that was messy, unpredictable, and wonderfully human, for the first time. She smiled fully, letting the warmth of her emotions mix with the warmth of the room. She realized that being vulnerable did not mean she was powerless. It meant she had begun to truly live. The soft light from the window cast a golden glow across the room. Lyra sat quietly, her hands wrapped around the warm cup of tea, feeling the heat seep slowly into her palms. The blush on her cheeks had settled into a steady warmth, a glow that mirrored the fire stirring inside her chest. She looked at Eli, noticing the calm patience in his eyes, the gentle tilt of his head, and the quiet reassurance in his smile. He did not rush her. He did not demand explanations. He simply was, and that alone made her heart race in ways she had never known possible. She began, her voice soft, unsure. I didn't think I could feel this much. Her lips trembled, and she stared into the steam curling from her cup, as if the answer might be written there. I have studied humans, studied feelings, observed life from a distance. But this, it's different. It's real. And it scares me. Eli leaned closer, careful not to make her feel trapped. It's supposed to, he said gently. That's how you know it's real. Real feelings are never easy. They're messy, overwhelming, and sometimes they make you afraid. But they also make you alive. And right now, you are more alive than ever. Lyra's pulse quickened at his words. She felt the warmth in her body intensify, a rush of color spreading from her cheeks to her neck and arms. She tried to steady herself, but every instinct in her body screamed with exhilaration. Her mind whirled, a chaotic storm of thoughts and emotions she could barely name. And yet, beneath the chaos, a quiet truth began to shine. She was no longer observing life, she was living it. I think I understand, she whispered, her hands trembling. It's not just fear or excitement. It's connection, isn't it? Something I've never felt before. Something more. Her eyes searched his wide and unguarded. I feel it with you. With you, everything is sharper, warmer, brighter. I don't want it to end. Eli's smile softened. Then it won't end, he said simply. Not if you don't want it to. You don't have to hide from it. You don't have to run. Feeling is not weakness. It's courage, and you're brave, Lyra. Braver than you know. Her chest tightened. Brave. She had always thought courage meant physical strength, calculation, control. But now she understood that true courage could be found in letting oneself feel, letting someone in, and trusting that the world would not crush you for your vulnerability. Her blush deepened once more, but it no longer embarrassed her. It was proof that she was alive, that she could feel, that she could be. Lyra's hands shook slightly as she lifted her cup. She took a sip of tea, the warmth flowing through her, and realized that the ordinary comforts of humans, the small gestures, the quiet spaces, the shared moments were extraordinary when experienced fully. Life was not meant to be observed from afar. It was meant to be lived, embraced, and felt. You've changed me, she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. I never thought I could feel like this. Never like this. You make it. Safe. You make it. Beautiful. Eli's eyes softened, filled with a quiet understanding. I'm glad, he said. And you don't have to understand everything all at once. Just feel, that's enough. Just feel, Lyra, that's all I ask. A shiver ran through her. And she realized that this quiet, shared understanding, this safety, this moment was something she had been searching for all her life, even without knowing it. Her blush glowed brighter, her pulse raced, yet a serene calm settled beneath it. She was both frightened and exhilarated, both vulnerable and strong. In that room, surrounded by sunlight, warmth, and the gentle presence of another being, Lyra felt something she had never felt before: hope. Not the cold hope of an observer calculating probabilities, but the bright, fierce hope of someone alive. Someone human, or perhaps more than human, someone capable of love, trust, and connection. And for the first time, she allowed herself to lean forward, just slightly, feeling the proximity of Eli, letting herself be fully present in the moment. Her blush burned hot, but it was no longer shame. It was proof. Proof that she was alive. Proof that she could feel. Proof that she could belong. The sunlight had shifted, spilling golden light across the room and painting everything in warm, soft hues. Lyra sat quietly, still holding her cup of tea, feeling its warmth flow through her hands, through her body, through her very being. Her blush had softened into a gentle glow, but inside, her heart raced with the lingering fire of emotion. Each beat reminded her that she was alive, fully and unreservedly. Eli leaned back slightly, watching her with a quiet smile, his presence steady and comforting. "You've come a long way," he said softly. "From the first moment I saw you to now. You're different. And not just because of what you are, but because of how you feel." Lyra's lips trembled, a faint smile appearing despite herself. She felt exposed, yes, but in that exposure was a strange strength. The warmth of her blush, the rapid pulse in her chest, even the tremor in her hands, they were no longer signs of weakness. They were proof. Proof that she had allowed herself to live fully, to experience connection and trust. She began, hesitating, searching for words that might convey everything she felt, but knew no words could. "I never imagined I could feel like this. I never thought I could feel with someone else. Not like this. Not so deeply, and now. I don't want to go back." Her voice was fragile, but every word carried the weight of honesty. Eli moved closer, letting the warmth of his presence fill the small space between them. "You don't have to go back," he said simply. "Not ever. You can stay here with me. You can feel everything you need to feel. And you don't have to be afraid." Lyra's blush deepened once again, her alien instincts mingling with this newfound humanity. She realized something extraordinary. The warmth, the vulnerability, the intensity she felt, these were not flaws. They were proof that she could experience life in ways her species had never allowed her to. She was not merely observing humans anymore. She was part of their world. She was alive in the most complete, unguarded way. A quiet laughter escaped her, soft and light, almost like a song. It was the laughter of someone who had crossed a threshold, who had embraced the unknown, who had let herself feel. She leaned forward slightly, closer to Eli, letting the proximity soothe and exhilarate her at the same time. Her hands, trembling, rested on the edge of the table, not hiding, not protecting, simply existing. "You've changed everything for me," she said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of awe and wonder. You've shown me that feeling is not weakness. That connection, that trust. It's alive. It's real. And I want it. I want this." Eli's smile deepened, his eyes warm with understanding. "Then take it," he said simply. "Take it all. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. Just be. That's enough. Being here, being yourself, is more than enough." Lyra's heart leapt. She felt the intensity of her emotions, fear, hope, exhilaration, and joy all mingling into something she could only describe as pure life. Her blush burned hot, a signal of vulnerability, yes, but also of courage. She realized that locking the door earlier had not been an act of fear. It had been an act of choice. Choice to protect herself while stepping fully into this new experience. This human world, this connection with Eli. She let out a slow, steady breath and smiled fully, letting the warmth of her body, her feelings, and the room combine into one overwhelming truth. She was alive. She was brave. She could feel. She could trust. She could belong. Eli reached out and gently took her hand. Their fingers intertwined naturally, the simple touch a confirmation of shared understanding and mutual respect. Lyra's blush deepened once more, but now it was a mark of triumph, not embarrassment. She realized she had found something she had never known she needed: the courage to live, the power to feel, and the beauty of being seen completely by another. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to lean back, relax, and let the moment exist without fear. The world outside could wait. The sun could continue its slow descent. For now, all that mattered was this room, this warmth, this connection, and the undeniable proof.